"We're busy that weekend," my father scrawled across a neon post-it. No call. No text. Just those few words slapped crookedly on my fridge like a reminder to buy milk. The faint scent of smoke still clung to it. I stood there, holding that small yellow square, realizing it confirmed something I'd been trying not to admit for years. Maybe I'd always known it, but seeing it written made it undeniable. Those 8 words stung more than any insult ever had. It felt like hearing, "You were never what we wanted." That's when everything fell apart. I crushed the note in my hand, tore it into pieces over and over again, until it was confetti on my kitchen floor. Then I went to the cabinet, pulled out the folder with their subsidized apartment lease. A 3-bedroom unit I arranged for them at half the market rate. Gone. I shredded it. Next came the utility bills, electric, gas, water, all paid under my name for years without so much as a thank you. I cut off every connection, every silent burden they had slipped onto my shoulders. Then came the car. The 2016 Mazda CX-5 I bought in my name because their credit was trashed. I drove it to a shelter and handed over the ownership. It went to a non-profit that transports single mothers to medical appointments. That night, I changed the locks. It should have ended there, but people like them don't just disappear when you stop sacrificing. They twist the story. Suddenly, I was the selfish one, the cold-hearted child. And for years, I accepted that role. I played the part of the dependable fool, the quiet backbone. I covered their messes, funded their lives, and never asked for a thing. Until that sticky note lit a fire I'd long buried. That's where this all begins. I wasn't always like this. I used to answer every call, send mom $250 every other week for groceries, fill their gas tank, cover streaming subscriptions, manage Spotify accounts, and even pay off parking tickets Barbara lied about. At one point, they owed me over $22,000. I never mentioned it. Why would I? I was reliable. "Timothy always figures it out," they'd say. Of course they didn't worry. I did all the worrying for them. It started 2 years ago when Dad lost his job. Though he called it retirement. Too many customer complaints, but Mom framed it as a blessing. We'll finally have more time together. What it really meant was more bills, more help, more subtle requests like, "Can you cover the heating this month?" Or, "Barbara had a situation. Could we use your emergency card?" It never stopped. That $8,400 housing arrangement I secured through a grateful landlord client was supposed to offer them stability. Instead, they asked for more. Barbara, temporarily, moved back in. That was 14 months ago. She brought her boyfriend, John, whose primary skills were vaping and gaming. They slept in my childhood room under posters from my youth, like squatters in my memories. Then small things began to vanish. A $200 Amazon gift card meant for Dad's birthday, then $600 from the emergency account. I asked, gently. Dad got defensive. "We're not thieves, Timothy. You don't control us just because you help." I let it go. But I began paying attention. Then I saw Barbara's Facebook post, a selfie at Lumiere Bistro, the fancy restaurant she used to mock. Her caption, "My man always spoils me." In the blurred background, my mother, wine glass in hand, smiling. My stomach dropped. I tracked the reservation through an old dummy email account I had set up for Dad. 4 people. Total bill, $950 charged to the same credit card I was using to pay their rent. I printed the receipt, but said nothing. Not yet. I needed to see how deep it went. The next week, Barbara asked me for help with her credit. Claimed a toxic ex had used her identity to commit fraud. I played along. Quietly, I had a contact run a soft credit check. No identity theft. No fraud. Just missed payments. Concert tickets, luxury skincare, all tied to her own name. Still, I said nothing. Then came the final insult. My dad posted a video in the family group chat. Me, walking out of a grocery store with bags in hand. He zoomed in and added a cartoon sticker, "House Runner." The caption read, "Guess who's on dinner duty again?" The replies poured in. Aunt Janet sent laughing emojis. Uncle Larry added, "At least someone's reliable." Mom stayed silent. Barbara wrote, "Tell him we need oat milk too. We're out." I didn't reply. I saved everything. Screenshots, video, messages. A week later, I got an alert. A new energy account had been opened in my name, at their address. But I'd already removed my details from all their services. I called the company. The registration used a digital scan of my ID. I checked Dad's old tablet. Autofill had stored my credentials. Email, password. That's when I realized they weren't just taking. They were stealing. To them, I wasn't family. I was an ATM with a heart sticker on the front. What came next was silence, the final, heavy quiet before everything changed. I arrived at what they said would be a simple dinner. Mom was humming over a pot on the stove. Dad lounged on the couch watching sports. Barbara and John scrolled noisily through videos at the kitchen island. There, resting on the counter, was an envelope labeled with my name. Inside was a single sticky note. Don't count on us for your wedding. We've got plans. No apology. No explanation. Just another silent slap in the face. I looked up. Dad didn't even flinch. Figured you'd want it in writing, he muttered, sipping his beer. Barbara smirked. We'll be in Santorini that weekend. Gotta prioritize, bro. That was it. That was the moment something in me finally broke, or maybe came alive. I smiled calmly, stood up, and walked out. That's when I started severing every thread they thought I'd always keep tied. They never saw it coming. The wedding invite had only been shared with close family, but Mom had accidentally posted it in an old group chat, one I still had access to. She never realized I was still reading. That's how I found out about their real celebration, not mine, theirs. A dinner booked for the same weekend, same overpriced restaurant where they'd once spent $950 on my card. A private dining room. Set menu. Champagne on arrival. I made a reservation at the table next to theirs. Under my real name. But I didn't go alone. With me was Jeffrey, Barbara's ex. The man she had accused of abuse, of ruining her life. When I contacted him and shared files recovered from her hard drive. Recordings, screenshots, messages, he didn't hesitate. Just tell me when and where, he replied. We met 30 minutes before the event. I handed him a folder. Everything I had gathered. In return, he gave me a court document he'd never filed, a restraining order application. He had been the one afraid of her, not the other way around. We're not playing by their script anymore, I said. He nodded. At the restaurant, a host tried to block us. I smiled, held up my ID. That's my name. I'm with the family next door. We walked in. Mom froze, her wine glass mid-air. Barbara dropped her phone. Dad stared blankly, like a fuse had blown in his head. Timothy, he said, rising too quickly. Perfect timing, I replied. Grateful for the chair I had reserved, I sat. Jeffrey took the seat beside me. I placed a USB stick on the table. Let's talk family. I projected the contents onto the restaurant screen. Clips of Barbara speaking. Lines she never thought I'd find. If Timothy ever gets married, I hope he ends up alone. In another clip, he's not family. He's just a resource. My mother gasped. Dad slammed his fist on the table. But I continued. Next, side-by-side screenshots. Her doctored messages compared with originals. One showed how she manipulated a kind note from me into a false insult. Then Jeffrey opened his binder. Inside, her entire setup. Notes, images, and a handwritten plan titled, If He Walks Away. 1. File a fake abuse report. 2. Leak photos to his employer. 3. Break him through guilt. Dad stood, furious. This is disgusting. Where'd you get all this? I met his eyes. From her old laptop. The one you gave her. She never wiped it. He looked at Barbara. She was pale, unmoving. But I wasn't finished. I'd like to introduce one more guest. Through the door walked Kathleen, the leasing agent from their $8,400 apartment. She brought records. In her hand was the altered lease extension Dad had submitted recently, the one still bearing my forged digital signature. I revoked access weeks ago, I told her. She nodded. But someone printed, scanned, and falsified the timestamp to make it look valid. Mom's glass slipped from her hand and shattered. I turned to Dad. You forged my name on a legal document. He growled. We made you. I stood slowly. No. You handed me silence, debt, and the kind of pain people unpack in therapy. Then I placed 3 envelopes on the table. The first, utility termination notices. The second, vehicle title transfer. The car now fully mine. The third, a donation receipt in their honor. The Mazda now gifted to a domestic abuse shelter. Silence settled like ash. Jeffrey leaned in. She framed me. Lied to all of you. I'm filing charges tomorrow. Barbara exploded. I hate you, she screamed at me. Dad lunged, but Kathleen blocked him. Consider yourself lucky we aren't reporting the lease fraud right now, she said icily. I turned to the staff. Apologies for the scene. We're leaving now. Before I left, I leaned close to Dad and said, next time you write a message, don't stick it to my fridge. Tape it to your mirror. The consequences came fast. That same night, Jeffrey posted the screenshots, recordings, timelines, everything. Within an hour, it had spread across town. By morning, her workplace found out. By afternoon, she was fired. That night, I got a single message. You undid everything. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to Jeffrey. He added it to his court file. Dad disappeared online. Facebook gone, LinkedIn deleted. But not before I anonymously sent documentation of the forged lease to his former employer. Kathleen followed up and officially reported the fraud. No charges have been filed yet. But the investigation is ongoing. Meanwhile, I waited exactly 72 hours after the confrontation. Then I shut off everything. Electricity, cut. Heat, off. Internet, cancelled. The silence in that apartment must have been deafening. They had 2 choices, find new shelter, or finally recognize who had been keeping the lights on for 5 years. They chose neither. They chose to complain. Publicly. My mother posted, family should heal, not hurt. You don't discard the ones who raised you for a few mistakes. The responses were mixed. Some relatives expressed sympathy. Others didn't. One cousin replied, didn't you once say Timothy wasn't invited to Christmas because you couldn't stand to look at him? That comment got over 300 likes. Another wrote, so forgiveness starts the moment the money stops? The post disappeared within the hour. But I had already saved it. I documented everything. Then, I uploaded it into an open-access folder titled, How Relatives Really Act. It contained video clips of my father yelling at a girl half his age, side-by-side images of Barbara's manipulated texts, scanned receipts showing $45,000 paid over 3 years, and a voice recording of my father saying, you owe us every cent. I never raised my voice. I didn't ask for pity. I just let the evidence speak. Calm, precise, and undeniable. Afterward, I shared the folder on Reddit, then Twitter, and anonymously submitted it to a community site called Quiet Cutoffs, a support network for people severing ties with toxic family. It went viral. Podcast invitations followed. A YouTuber with 7 lakh subscribers called it the cleanest break I've ever seen. I stayed silent. The material told the truth better than I ever could. My phone lit up with missed calls. My father left a voicemail that began composed but quickly unraveled. You're making people hate us. You've ruined your name. No one will love someone who betrays their parents. I saved the message under the label, Final Threat. Barbara sent 3 messages. You win. Enjoy your little ceremony. I'm suing you for slander. But she never followed through. Why? Because 2 days later, I posted another image, a framed car donation receipt hanging inside a women's shelter in Austin. The caption read, for every time I was told I existed to serve. This signature now helps those who truly matter. The shelter invited me to help. I said yes. That same day, I severed every tie to my relatives, closed joint bank accounts, canceled co-signed loans, ended shared phone plans, unlinked Apple IDs, deleted shared logins, Hulu included. My dad's show cut off mid-episode. I wiped every digital and financial connection and started something new. I created a Substack newsletter, just in case they ever asked why. I shared personal essays, quiet exits, unseen sons, respectful rejections. In under 2 weeks, 9,000 followers, 3 featured posts, 1 publishing partnership. The second post was titled, "The Sticky Note That Started It All." It opened with, "They said they couldn't attend my wedding. So I got busy ensuring they'd never be part of anything again." Of course, they tried. A week before the wedding, I received a plain envelope, no return address, but my mother's handwriting was unmistakable. Inside was a printed email chain with a childhood dentist. She was begging him to convince me to come home. "Strangers online are poisoning him. We just want to see his wedding." No apology. No ownership. Just a twisted version where I was the problem. The dentist never responded. I framed the note and hung it in my office. Next to it, a plaque that reads, "Always busy." The wedding itself was small, 42 guests. No fights. No blood relatives. My partner wore amber, not ivory. We didn't pretend. We earned this. We looked like survivors. During the vows, I didn't promise eternal love. I promised to love her loudly. To never fall silent like I had with my family. To never ask her to shrink so I could feel big. My witness, Jeffrey, Barbara's ex. We'd become true allies. He ended his toast with, "Some are born into families. Others have to fight for them." I'd pick this. Every time. The applause felt heavier than expected. Maybe because, for the first time, I believed it. 3 days later, I got one last message from my father. A voice clip. No greeting. No blessing. Just him breathing hard, followed by, "You're building a name now. But never forget, it came from me." That was it. His way of trying to claim control, as if lineage were a leash. I posted it to my newsletter under the title, "When the Disappeared Still Think They Own Your Name." It went viral. People began tagging me in photos of torn sticky notes. One therapist printed the post and pinned it in her office. That's when I realized I didn't just survive them. I rewrote the ending they'd planned. I never saw Barbara again, but I did get a letter from her lawyer. She wanted the car back. Claimed it was emotionally distressing to lose it. I sent back a flash drive. On it was a video of her in my childhood room, laughing with John, saying, "Timothy's basically my walking debit card." Kind of cute, right? No response after that. 6 months later, I launched a new business. Not tech. Not media. A publishing imprint. Sticky Note Press. Tagline, "We publish the truths families try to bury." Our first release. My memoir. Do not expect us at your wedding. We're busy. Dedicated to the version of me who stayed silent. He deserved more. The book hit 3 on the indie nonfiction charts. No tour. 1 radio interview. When asked, "Would you ever reunite with your family?" I smiled. I already did. With the facts. They were never my people. The next morning, I changed my number. No announcement. No farewell message. Just silence. I stood in the post office, held my old SIM card above the trash, and let it fall. No one noticed. That's when it hit me. They weren't reaching out because they forgave. They finally accepted I don't answer ghosts. Now, I live differently. A new home. No shared logins. No second-hand grief. My partner and I protect Sundays. We sip strong coffee, sit on the balcony, and laugh when a neighbor's sticky note floats onto ours. Because now, when I see those yellow squares, I don't think of family. I think of fire. And how, sometimes, cutting ties isn't enough. You have to burn the script entirely.